Hey, it's Second Soundwave, and today it is time to review the high-grade 1/144th scale Arios Gundam. The Arios was released back in 2008 for the back then fairly high price of 1,500 yen. Nowadays that's actually a little below what the average high-grade goes for. Still, it is a pretty awesome kit to this day, being a 00 Season 2 mobile suit. They tend to have some pretty good engineering, and the Arios is no exception. There are a lot of polycaps used in really creative ways with this build. For example, there's a shoulder polycap, the sort of swing out shoulder polycap design is actually used for the mid-torso joint. Also, those shoulder joints are actually ankle polycaps, and there's a variety of other polycaps used in unusual ways. It's definitely a kit they have to pay attention to while you're building it, because there's some really unusual stuff going on while you're building, and once you have it finished, you realize just how unique of a kit this is. One of these unique aspects of the Arios Gundam is its head sculpt. You can see it kind of throws aside the traditional V-fin for a more almost hair-like look. And this took me a while to get used to. I didn't really warm up to it until I actually built the kit and had it in hand, and now I kind of like it. The orange forehead's pretty cool. It kind of reminds me of the heavy arms where it had like the secondary color as the forehead instead of it just being all white. I like it. It helps break up the colors. The clear forehead gem's always cool. I love how the old 00 kits had it. I wish more modern mobile suits and kits had the clear forehead gem as opposed to just the simple sticker. The chest got some good detailing. The shoulders are nice. I love the orange. It's sort of a creamsicle color. It's a very unusual color to see on a Gundam, and that's why I love it. It's just such a neat color combination with the white and the orange. The other oddball trait of the Arios Gundam is these massive shoulder sort of spikes. They can go up about 90 degrees, and they can bend here, but other than that, they're basically just kibble. However, they do make a sort of, almost like a cloaked look to it, which is kind of cool. And being the immature teenager I am, the first thing that came to mind when I saw the waist design of this figure is, can you bring this part up at all? And the answer is, unfortunately, no. It's on a clip, and it's a straight clip, and this is as far forward as it goes. It goes back for transformation, but it just kind of stays down here. And while we're down here, I should point out the first of the negatives I have with this kit, and that is the stickers. These orange stripes down the legs, these are stickers. They sort of tend to peel around the edges. I don't think these will last very long, and unfortunately this is a very odd color. Not many Gundams are orange, like I said before, which means that orange paint that's of this exact color isn't easy to find, which means you'll have to mix it yourself. Some people are good at that. I personally haven't ever tried that. I'm not sure I'd risk it with this kit, because other than the stickers, I really like this kit and I'd rather not mess it up. But maybe I'll experiment with it sometime when I get better at paint mixing. One cool bit of part separation on this kit is that the insides of the vents on the legs are actually yellow. That really surprised me. I would have expected those to be just black. The feet on this kit, surprisingly enough, are pretty much exactly like the Arios. They fold down for the transformation, and they generally look really hollow. Now again, there's a flap that kind of folds over them, and it kind of helps cover them, but they're still not my favorite foot design. The first of the Arios' gimmicks is hidden in the arm. You can remove this forearm plate, and you'll notice there's a pair of guns here. Now they were kind of visible before, but what you do is you just pop into the thinner gap, the thinner little groove there, so it's out like this, and now the forearm guns are a little more visible. It's kind of a subtle thing, you can't really notice it. I do like that they're a separate color. I think if they were white they'd be completely lost in there, but still, it's kind of pointless. I mean, you can still kind of see them when the arm thing's down, so all it really does is make an unnecessary step that, quite frankly, isn't all that useful. Now, the second gimmick of this kit I like a little more, because this kit stores the beam sabers inside the hip skirts. Now, there are a lot of mobile suits that do that. However, most of them at high grade either involve parts forming, or they just outright don't store them at all. However, on the Arios here, you lift up the skirt, and you just pull out the beam saber handle. Alternatively, you could leave it in there and give him sort of advanced Hazel style beam saber arms. Oddly enough, the beam sabers that come with this kit are two different sizes. They're not noticeably different when they're just in hand, but when you see them together they are quite a bit different. They are also slightly flat. I don't know if you can really tell, but they aren't perfectly round. So they do have a flat side, and you just stick them in, they fit in nicely. Drop into his hand. They do tend to sort of stop once they hit the behind the wrist sort of guard, but you can actually tilt the wrist upwards, and that helps alleviate that. So, pretty cool. Good little standard classic sort of Gundam weapon, the beam saber. And like I said, he's got two of them, one under each hip skirt. And here he is with a beam saber mounted on his waist skirt. The primary weapon of the Arios is a double-barreled beam rifle. Now, this is a pretty cool looking weapon. I've always liked sort of over and under style beam rifles. That's pretty cool. Has almost like an upside down version of that clear piece that was on top of the the Geon Sword 2s that came with the 00 Gundam. Although the fact that the Cheridim's rifle also has this piece shaped this way makes me think that probably it's the ones on the 00 Gundam that are upside down. But the handle does rotate. I'm not sure why. I don't think it's used in any of the modes. It's just a pointless little feature they threw in. This is supposed to be a translucent blue. You can paint it. I've kept it. I don't think it's that big a deal that it's clear. It looks perfectly fine. The gimmick on this one, and this is another one of those pointless gimmicks I don't think it really needs, is that it can do that. There's nothing that like fits in here and tabs down. There's no kind of bayonet, no add-on. It just moves. Now, the logic in the show is that it allows him to shoot two things at once. I can kind of see that. However, for the most part, it's pretty dumb. However, the important part is that it looks pretty darn cool when held in his hand. Speaking of hands, he comes with an extra one. It's just a closed fist. It's kind of pointless. I don't really like closed fist hands. I think the weapon gripping hands work just fine for fist poses. I would have much preferred a open, relaxed hand. But, you know, it's nice they threw it in. Other than the Build Burning Gundam and the Master Grades with the swappable fingers, I actually can't think of many kits that have closed fist hands, so it is kind of nice to throw it in. It's just I, again, would have preferred a open hand, although I suppose I could just borrow the one from the 00 Gundam. But the coolest accessory has to be the stand. This guy comes with a full-blown action base. It's not one of the single-pack ones, it's one of these sort of swap-out parts ones that some high grades and master grades come with. And what, may you ask, am I talking about? Well, let's go in depth with it, shall we? Because of the transforming nature of the Arios, it actually doesn't have a standard waist hole to plug into. There's actually, underneath the waist skirt, if you remove it here like so, there's an adapter piece. So that's the first part of this, is that there's an adapter right here, you plug it into the butthole right there, and then you pop this skirt on, and that's how you get him to stand in this in robot mode. Flight mode, well, we'll get to that. But first, let's look at the stand in all of its wonderful black plastic glory. Now, you get a few parts. First off, you get a base plate with two places to attach. A stand arm, you can attach them either way. You get a extender, and you get two types of arms. You get a forward-angled sort of flight mode one. This is for kits like the Wing Gundam that have a sort of, that still use the robot mode stand port for flight mode. And then this is for basically just robot mode stuff, or things like the O-Riser that have a bottom peg. This can just be slid down like that, and you pop it onto there, and you can pop it in right there. Alternatively, you could put on both arms at once and have multiple mobile suits displayed together. You could have, like, you know, a GN Archer down here and then an Arios up here or something like that. It's a very versatile stand design, and I really like it. This kit comes with it. I know the Master Grade Core Booster comes with it. There are at least a couple others. I can't think of them off the top of my head, but it is a sort of common-ish stand. So yeah, it's pretty awesomely included with this. That alone makes it worth the purchase, in my opinion. But if Gunpla taught us anything, it's that if it comes with a stand, it turns into a plane. And the Arios is not only no exception, it is a great example that other kits should follow. Now, first step, pull off any weapons, including the stand adapter, if you have not already. Next up, you want to take the head and sort of double joint it back a bit and tip it down. Take the arms, rotate them inward 90 degrees, take this piece and there's like a locking point. It locks in here and that's loose up here. You want to unlock it. You want to straighten these out and you want to bring them up and together, just like so. Next you want to take this piece in the back, fold it down, that becomes the cockpit. It doesn't really tab in, but it's held fairly well just by the polycap down here. Because this kit is no slouch when it comes to polycaps. This ain't no, all Gundam Project modern kit where they skimp on the polycaps. There's a huge polycap sprue in this kit, and every one of them's used. Now, the one piece of parts forming on this kit, you want to pull this off, this back skirt here, and then attach it in at a 180-degree angle to where it was previously. And then you want to take the tabs on the front of it and pop them into those rectangular holes on the shoulders, just like so. It's a very minor bit of parts forming, but I don't really mind considering the rest of the transformation goes so well. Now next you want to take that suspicious looking blade coming down to the crotch and just bring it back, and that forms the tail fin. And now for the legs. This is where things really get interesting. You want to start by rotating them back 90 degrees. Then you want to collapse the feet in and collapse the ankle guards down over them. But this is the cool part. You tip the wings back, and then you slide them down, and then you collapse the ankle down, and the whole thing forms a single wing. So it basically goes from that to that. It's a really ingenious design, and a great bit of almost Transformer-like engineering. I wish more mobile suits had this kind of creative transformation. It's just so cool. And then you take the arm, and you can tip this part down a bit to make room, and just tuck the arms down with the hands sort of going under the wings. And now you take a new stand adapter, and this one I'm not really as much of a fan of. You're supposed to kind of wedge it in over this orange crotch part, and it kind of holds, but it's not something I'd want to like put on a shelf like this, because I have a suspicion that it would eventually fall off. And as you can see, it is long. Like really long, really sleek, and I love it. This is probably my favorite flight mode of any mobile suit ever. It's just so great looking. Quite frankly, it doesn't even look that bad from the underside. I mean, there's some stuff here and there, but it's not nearly as bad as something like the Wing Gundam. And if you remember back to my review of the High Complete Model Pro Arios, and if you don't, I don't blame you, that thing was awful, the kit was awful, the review was awful, and quite frankly, I'm sad now that I brought it up again, because that was a horrible figure. Anyway, if you remember that, on that one, the shield would split open into a claw. Well, on this guy, you take the nose, you spread it apart, and just like the Arios, you get a murder claw for Hallelujah to use. That right there is pretty cool. I'm not quite as big a fan of it as the claw. I think it's a little bit of an odd sort of interpretation of it for Season 2, but I think it kind of works. I think it's just cool. Yeah. And since I rather embarrassingly glossed over it before, let's take a look at articulation. Now, starting off with the head, got some great movement. As you saw in the transformation, you can look all the way down into itself. You can look really far up. Side to side's not that great, and the chin guards kind of get in the way of the sort of collarbone when it's turning around, but overall I think it's really good head movement, especially up and down. I mean, that's a huge range right there. Shoulders are funky, because the way they work is there's a ball joint, but it's going this way. It swivels down, but in order to get it down, you need to lift this up. When you do that, it loosens up the transformation joint. But you can still kind of swing it down, and once you do so, you can get some normal shoulder movement, although it does make them look a little broken-armed. However, if you keep it up and straight, you can still get a little bit of shoulder movement. It just starts to kind of come in a bit. He does have outward shoulder movement inside the arm to about there. And then again, like I said, you can unpeg the arm and pretty much bring it right over his head. He's got a swivel right there, a double jointed elbow, and then a very, very, very deep wrist hinge, as well as a ball joint, so he can go well beyond the point of touching his shoulder. Torso movement is very good. All sorts of range there. I love the torso articulation of this guy. It's so great. He's got a good swivel too. Hip skirts, they do a good job of getting in the way. This one likes to fall off, especially when you're trying to get the beam sabers out. But they do sometimes fall off when you're moving the legs well. Legs go all the way up, basically until the knee hits the shoulder pad. That's kind of the limiting factor. Since the back skirt actually moves a notable amount, you can actually get the legs back pretty far. Or if you want, you can kind of go a little past them there. Outward's a bit limited. There's no hip skirt, but they can only go about that far outwards. So basically same as the Reborn's Gundam. And there you can see what I was talking about with the hip skirts, but minor issue. Knee, if you can get it up, the leg up far enough, you can get the knee to fold completely on itself. And again, there's a thigh swivel like you saw for transformation. These don't really have a good locking point, especially on this side. I think I might just be not transforming it right, but I don't know. Now, this kit does occasionally self-disassemble, but it is a model kit, so you just kind of be careful with it, and it should be fine. I've definitely seen flimsier kits, so I'm not too worried about that. Ankle tilts an okay amount. It goes back a little bit, forward okay, and it goes down for transformation. And it rotates. So overall, pretty decent articulation. Definitely at least to the level that I'd expect for a 00 kit. I usually hold a very high standard to those because, in my opinion, they are some of the best high-grade model kits that there are. So yeah, pretty good articulation. Good accessories, great design, incredible transformation, awesome stand. Even has cool box art. There's just a lot of great stuff going on with this kit. I would definitely recommend it. Anyway, this is Second Soundwave. I hope you enjoyed this review of the high-grade 1/144th scale Arios Gundam from 00 Season 2. If you like this, be sure to like and subscribe if you aren't already. And I will see you next time.